Clown in the Cornfield is a 2025 teen slasher feature directed by Eli Craig, and he will adapt from Adam Cesar's 2020 novel of the same name. Before we proceed with the review, I could have sworn I watched this movie before. Oh yes, it was Eli Roth's Thanksgiving from 2023. A small American town with a spat of killings targeting teenagers during a well-celebrated holiday when a parade was heavily featured. To be honest, I could not remember much of that holiday-themed slasher film. Eli Roth had first made a mock thriller in the omnibus Grindhouse. I do however remembered the killer basting a victim in a human-sized oven to create a truly creepy Thanksgiving dinner that made you think twice about going for another round of turkey after watching it. By sheer coincidence, both directors' first name is Eli. In Clown in a Cornfield, we got a classic prologue of the movie with teenagers doing what teenagers do, this time in the year of 1991, making a hullabaloo within the premise of Baypan corn syrup factory. One lady would entice her partner to do some hanky-panky business within the overgrown cornfield. This was no Crystal Lake and there was no Jason Voorhees, but the fate remained the same of this recalcitrant pair. Fast forward to present day, we have Dr. Glenn and his teenage daughter Queen, who would relocate to the quaint town of Cattle Spring, Missouri, where Glenn was setting up a clinic. The audience would immediately be informed of the strained relationship between Glenn and Queen, with the daughter putting some blame of her mother's passing on her neglectful father. Boy, this kind of storyline had been popping up a lot lately in movies like the previously reviewed Death of the Unicorn and Cuckoo from last year. Queen would be prompt to make friends of around her age, firstly with Rust, a young chap the filmmakers was way too zealous to label as a redneck, and this stereotype would linger throughout the movie. An unfortunate run-in with authority on her first day of school, Queen would get involved with a group of cool kids in the school, and seems like their reputation beset them within the town of Cattle Spring. Their reputation was credited to their persistent misdemeanor, making absurd YouTube videos about the creepy lore of a serial killer taking the guise of Frendo, the clown mascot of Baypan Factory, causing grievous harm around the vicinity of the factory, which suffered an arson, an act the town people staunchly suspected was a doing of these young people. The group was led by Cole, the son of the town mayor, therefore it felt like they constantly got away with their delinquency and propagated them to keep upping their game. Cole with his bad boy persona, but a softie when dealing with the new girl in town, it felt natural for Queen to fall head over heels for Cole, who everyone knew was a walking red flag. Of course, trouble was going to follow these recalcitrant teenagers, and Queen was embroiled in it and assumed the role of the final girl of this slasher feature. I have a major discord to bring to the plot, which might be from the source material. Was the homicide committed in the prologue a standalone event of someone harboring dissent towards unruly teenagers with their misdeeds in the corn syrup factory? Was it an urban legend, or was there documented events over the years? From what transpired in the latter half of the movie and the motive of the killer clown, it did not seem like it stemmed from the lore of the killer Frendo. This lack of connective tissues between the present and the past, and perhaps we could just give a throwaway reasoning of a copycat killer. In my review of Damien Leone's Terrifier 3, I mentioned about suffering from a degree of coulrophobia, and the popular franchise like Terrifier and Stephen King's It does not help the matter. In fact, I found that there were some plot structures of this story that took inspiration of the generational ongoings of a dairy town. After seeing viral videos of real-life scares of people dressing up as clowns and make unsolicited neighborhoods visits during unearthly hours or chasing people on deserted roads, what we see here was not entirely far-fetched. It was not hard for me to breed some disdain over Cole and his group of pesky teenagers, and I cannot wait for them to be meeting their gruesome demise. While there was some creativity from director Eli Craig with the kills registered in this movie, what we see on screen did not resonate with me as the movie ended. To be frank, I was not entirely bought into the ongoings of the plot, which felt very archetypal for this subgenre and was safe to hit many familiar notes along the way. Queen, played by Kathy Douglas, was easy to root for, although she was not receptive to red flags, which I guess she would be under the circumstances. Familiar faces like Kevin Durant and Will Sasso give the movie some credibility, but ultimately they did not add much to the movie. The real highlight for me was the role of Rust, the young hunting enthusiast. Sorely missing in the middle part of the movie, His appearance at the end brought a group reaction from the victims that explained things that seemed like a running subplot. Eli Craig, who came into prominence in 2010's Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, did give us a decent slasher treat which could be enjoyable as a casual watch if you disregard the incoherent plot holes. The kills set up and the final delivery was on point, but I felt like a sequel was probable with the final resolution. Back to comparing with Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, in which the sequel is already in development, though unlikely for the slated 2025 release, I would say Clown in a Cornfield paled in comparison and rightfully deserved a middle-of-the-road 6 out of 10 from me. Feeling let down with the hype of this movie, I felt perhaps watching Eli Craig's Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, one waiting in my burner for a while, would be a better watching experience. Wow, I was guffawing for most of the movie, and the comedy which brilliantly and naturally worked around horror tropes was something I found admirable and perhaps at the peak of horror comedy filmmaking. Alan Tudyk and Tyler Labine played the titular Tucker and Dale respectively, a couple of hillbillies who needed a summer break in a holiday cabin in the woods. When they had stopped by for provision, they encountered a group of college students who also embarked in this less traveled part of West Virginia for their summer holiday shenanigans. Narrating the story from the point of view of the college students, especially Allison, played by Katrina Bowden, it was easy to paint Tucker and Dale as the uncouth country pumpkins, would still be labelled as criminal for no apparent reason. I just realised that this was made a decade or so earlier than a movie like Low Lives, which I had thoroughly enjoyed last year, and there were blatant parallels in this pair of movies. Our affable hillbillies would have their paths crossed with the young people again, and through a chain of unfortunate events, they were maligned to kidnap Allison by her friends. The actions from the group when Tucker and Dale tried to clear the misunderstanding was incredibly hilarious, and I had a ball of time. The absurd deaths that incurred pended between highly improbable and a tragic fate when you were not aware of the dangers of your surroundings. The part with Tucker operating the hazardous wood chipper foreshadowed a grievous death was to follow, and then the hilarity ensued when the sheriff came checking things out to see the duo trying to dispose a bloody, dismembered corpse. There was a swerve from a key character which I did not care for, and the main instigator of all this nonsense between the two parties, which could be easily resolved, which Allison had attempted to mediate, which of course deepened the animosity. The thing that really worked was the affable friendship between the two main characters, and the earnest nature of Labine's performance in the role of Dale, which was very likable and was easy for Allison and the audience to care about him as the plot thickens. It was no secret that I enjoyed Tucker and Dale vs. Evil much more than Clown on a Cornfield, which after 15 years, it felt like director Eli Craig might still be trying to capture that lightning in the bottle with his directorial debut. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is an easy 8 out of 10 for me. Go seek it out if you want to have a fun time when the slasher tropes got flipped. Hope you enjoyed this impromptu Eli Craig's double bill movie reviews, and let me know how you feel about either movie in the comments. I had also done a double bill review of Death of a Unicorn from director Alex Schaffman, as well as Hell of a Summer from co-directors Wolf Finhart and Billy Brick, which definitely is a worse offering than Clown on a Cornfield. If I ever find a factory having a creepy clown as its mascot, I will burn it down too. Forget about what I've said.